Bum, 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 bum.
Here's a book you're going to read.
Okay. How the Grinch Stole Christmas?
How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Okay, here we go.
How the Grinch stole Christmas? I don't know. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whose Valley, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas. The whole Christmas season now. Please don't ask. Why not? No one quite knows the right reason.
It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. His heart was 2 sizes too small. Take a look. Look at that. Heart was 2 sizes too small. How could you do that, buddy? Come on. I don't think you could do that. See what else there is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on the Christmas Eve, hating the Who, starting down from his cave with a sour, grunchy frown at the warm, lighted windows below in their own town. For he knew every Who down in Who village beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. Mistletoe wreath?
Mistletoe.
Mistletoe wreath? And they're hanging that stockings. He snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drawing. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming.
For tomorrow he knew.
What is this guy? Who are all girls and boys? Who would wake bright and early? They dressed for their toys, and oh, then, and oh, the noise, noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise, and the noise. Who hated all that stuff? Do you know?
Then the Who, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they feasted and they feasted. They would feast on Who's pudding and rare Who's roast beef, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least.
And then they do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, sing, sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. Nasty Grinches. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat, and he chuckled and he cluckered. What's a great crunchy trick? With this coat and this hat, I look just like St. Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around. But since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead.
So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a rack sled, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Get up," and the sleigh started down toward homes where whose lay a snooze in their town. All the windows were dark. Quite quick snow filled the air. All those who were all dreams, sweet dreams, without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, this is stop number 1. The old Grinch Claus hissed and climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist.
And he slid down the chimney, a rather right pinch, but if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present: pop guns, bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree.
And then the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the cuckoo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who's, little Cindy Lou, whose Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who's daughter, who's got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quickly. "Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lives there. A high light on this tree, and that won't light up one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child. Then he parted his head, and then he got her a drink, and then sent her to bed. And when the Cindy Lou, who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other whose house.
Are you listening to this stuff? Oh, good God, good do. Okay, here's another one, great big one. Merry Christmas, Merry Merry. It was quarter that past dawn, all the way still at bed, all of the who's still a snooze. When he picked up his sled, he picked up with the presents, the robe and ribbons, the wrappings, the rags, the tinses, the trimmings and the trappings, and the rags. See what he's doing? He's picking up all the garbage. He's got it all. There's the birds. There's the stuff in the cart. Oh my God. Too much. Too much. And 3,000 feet up the side of the Mr. Crumpet, he rode with his head load on the tip top to dump it. Pooh to the who's. He was grinched by humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they're doing. Their mouths will hang open a miniature or two. Then the what down in Wallville will all cry, boo hoo. So they had all that stuff crying, and it was all the old boo hoo. My gosh. Okay, there they are. Coming on down. There they are. Took a hand. What you guys are doing? What do you think you're doing?
Noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at the Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons, it came without tags, it came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Merry Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Merry Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. In the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. Food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef.